Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 694. And joining me is my co-host, Nathan.
What's going on today?
Do we dare tell them what just happened? What we were doing?
Yeah, let's let him in on the secret. Let's let him in on it.
I went on a rant because I'm really jealous. Nathan lives in San Francisco, where the weather is probably the most stable, best weather you can find year round in the lower 48. It's about 68 degrees, July, December, May, April, year round. And I'm jealous of it.
Microclimate. It's the best climate.
It's like this little tiny, very small amount of square miles. San Jose is not the same. Oakland is not the same, but San Francisco city proper, amazing. Now, I was ranting about how I hate my HVAC in my apartment, and I do HVAC for a living, so you would think I would have a great setup. I can't afford that. So I went on this long rant, and we find out like 2 minutes into the rant, we're not even recording. I'm just
recording.
Blowing air out of my, hot air is coming out of my face. No one's even recording. Yeah, dude, it's hotter coming out of my mouth than it is the air in the corner of my apartment.
Yeah.
Anyway, do I even rehash it, or should I just say people out there who live in cold climates, who, by the way, don't necessarily agree on the thermostat temperature with their partner, I feel your pain. I'm cold. I wear a beanie and a sweatshirt in my own apartment. It's not fun. I hate how cold it is.
The funniest thing is I always have cold hands and feet. I don't know if it's a circulation thing, but Liz, dead ass for Christmas, got me these little guys right here. And I kid you not, they are little heaters. So you turn them on, and I can turn to 3 different levels of heat, if you can see that right there. And you just hold them and they heat up. So now I've got them in my hands. I just sit at my desk when I'm working from home, just heating my little phalanges up. It's fantastic.
Well, to further make this, again, I don't want to rehash the conversation we had that no one heard. Didn't get recorded. My HVAC sucks in my house. Air comes from one location. It doesn't evenly distribute throughout my apartment. And I know there's better out there because I do it for a living. But I don't want to get hung up on that. What I want to say is I feel like a massive wimp because it's 50 degrees outside. That's relatively warm. I've got friends in Pittsburgh who are freezing their buns off, shoveling snow. And I'm like, I know it's worse other places, right? But I'm really cold. I'm really cold. And the conversations about, hey, Portland, for example, is really expensive. How do you ever buy a house here? Because it's $1 million for a shack that sucks. It's so do we move somewhere else? Well, guess where it's cheap to live, Nathan? Really cold cities, way more cold than here. Detroit,
where you don't want to live.
Yeah. Places that hey, they're cheap for a reason. You can buy a house. We can afford a house there. But if I'm cold at 50 degrees, I know it hurts my soul. And I'm I don't think I'm up to the task to live in an Ohio or a Cleveland or Detroit. I know I would really struggle there.
I am a firm believer that the sun is good for the soul. The closer that you can be to the sun or just have that exposure to the sun and natural sunlight, the better off you're going to be and the healthier you're going to be. So it's worth the price, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, that
Liz and I went out and played tennis this afternoon. It's hey, you want to go play tennis? It's sunny, high 50s out right now. Let's go play some tennis. Did I get waxed? Yeah. Did you beat my ass? Yeah. But I'm getting better. Also, if you guys have any tips for the backhand, I'm struggling. My backhand stroke is not there yet.
See,
it's the only stroke I don't have.
There are people out there listening to the show that live in cold places, right? And it's so cold that you think about playing tennis in their weather, you tear your ACL just thinking about it because it's so brittle out there. You're I don't know. I hate that you play tennis today. I'm so jealous. I'm really I'm worked up about this. Look how old I am. I'm an old man who hates the cold, ranting about weather.
What a hard life we live.
Hey, you know what? I will say now. I got to keep this going a little longer. I'm sorry. We were at Fred Meyer the other day, the one that I'm sure you used to shop at right by my apartment.
On Burnside? Yeah.
This homeless guy walks by, and I mean this with absolute respect to homeless people. The worst smell I've ever smelled in my entire life, urine and sweat and dirt, and hasn't bathed in a long time. And Molly peacefully reminded me, hey, think about, 300-400 years ago, that's what everyone smelled like all the time because people weren't bathing. And I'm okay, I've got a renewed appreciation. Really, I got running water. It's somewhat warm in my apartment. It could be worse. It could be so much worse than I have it now.
Yeah, I mean, we are living better and have more access to so many things that previous generations, even 100 years ago, didn't have. So sometimes it's great to look in the mirror and just be thankful for what we got. We're sitting here.
even other
We're sitting here talking about sports.
yeah, well, even
What
other
can beat that?
countries. Like it's
Yeah.
you know what?
Yeah.
I have it. The worst I have it here is still better than most places. Don't miss out on the last football game of the year with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prize Picks is also giving away a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs one passing yard for you to win one square. If you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. Check out the promos tab to tail any of our Super Sweat Millie winners big game lineups. For the big game, Philadelphia against Kansas City, here are the question marks. Will Saquon Barkley rush for 112.5 yards? Will Jalen Hurts throw for more than 215.5 yards? Will Travis Kelce have more than 62.5 receiving yards? Will Xavier Worthy have more than 56.5 receiving yards? You got to check Prize Picks for up-to-date player projections. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Okay, let's talk about football because I'm really curious. And I don't want to just jump right to the chase, and then we can circle back and talk about the games. But our Super Bowl matchup is Philly against Kansas City. We talked a lot about it. I think at one point, I'm sure I said something to the effect of like, that's the most boring possible outcome for the Super Bowl. However, it's two great teams, probably the two best teams I think that deserved it the most. They won out, but also like these are really loaded football teams that are really capable. I think it's going to be a good game. What's your level of excitement for the Super Bowl? Because I think generally there's a level of malaise, tired, frustration. Like, oh, we had this matchup before. And of course, it's Kansas City again. A lot of complaining there. Going into the Super Bowl, 2 weeks away from it, what's your excitement level? How do you feel about the game at this point?
This is about to be an incredible game of football. Say what you want about, oh, I can't stand Philly or, oh, I can't stand the Chiefs. And Josh Allen said it best. To be the champs, you got to beat the champs. Nobody beat the two best teams in football this year. I know the Eagles had their struggles to start the year, but Nick Sirianni, again, had to replace two coordinators in the offseason for the second year in a row, right? So you got dudes learning everything on both sides of the system, offense and defense. That's going to take time to get right. Add to that the strength and depth of their roster, plus hitting on a number of draft picks this year. Scary, great team. And then you have the Kansas City Chiefs, and you got a guy like Pat Mahomes on your team who can just make any and every play at any moment, just has a great feel for what kind of drive the offense needs. You've got two of the best teams that know how to win in adverse situations, and that's why those two teams, you know that they're there. I'm incredibly excited for it because number one, we get a rematch, but number two, we get two pretty strong defenses and two relatively strong offenses, and I think it's going to be another battle, coming down to the wire for both of these two teams. I'm not sure how high scoring it's going to be, but it's like I said last week for this Bills-Chiefs matchup, you're probably going to have to score, 28, 30 plus points in order to win the game.
I have 12 one-score wins this year by Kansas City.
Yeah.
It's 12 or 11. I'm trying to count while I think and listen and talk, and it's too much going on at once. I don't know. My point is this Kansas City team found a way every single week to make enough plays to win.
And they're like 17 games in a row now, by the way. So 12, and you date that back to last season, 17 in a row. That's not luck.
They're what I would say are really incredibly poised in big moments. I made the comparison earlier in the season about, hey, when I got better at installing HVAC equipment, for example, I would run into a problem and go, oh yeah, that's fine. I'll figure that out. No worry. I wasn't thrown by things that for early in my career were like catastrophic. Oh my God, that broke. The blower motor's not aligned. This, that, we got a static pressure problem. I'm like, oh, now I know. I eventually got to the point where I had the tools and the understanding to solve nearly anything that could come across my day. Kansas City has the same energy where it's like, yeah, you got a touchdown late. We'll match you. We'll figure it out.
They've got zero stress.
Poise and confidence. They're going to figure it out no matter what situation you put them in.
Yeah, is that the kind of the game we want to open up and break down first here from our matchups?
I think so. And then I guess we could also then circle back to what we expect from this matchup between the two teams. But
Yeah.
I really, I'm so tired of the complaining by people who watch Chiefs games. I mean, I really, there was a late, um, a short yardage situation by Buffalo where they needed a yard,
Yeah.
and maybe they got it, maybe they didn't. I don't know. It was really like super close.
Yeah.
And I see both arguments. I see Bills fans saying we got it. I see Kansas City Chiefs fans saying, oh, you're waiting for the refs. Here's my take on this whole thing. You cannot ever leave the game in question where you're letting refs decide your fate. If you need a yard, you get 5, and then no
No
one has
questions
any
asked.
doubt whether you got the first down or not. And I just think people too often, kind of just generally leave their fate up to other people and
Yeah.
don't control their own destiny. Again, if you want to get a yard, you get 5 yards, and then there's no question whether you got that first down or not. And I'm just so tired of people moving the goalposts and talking about the refs and complaining this and pointing fingers rather than taking accountability. Hey, we could have been better in this moment, at this moment, at this moment. I can't really do that conversation anymore. I'm so tired. Dude, I lost a high school football game to you. A really big, look up River Skyview, everyone, where we blocked your field goal and we thought the play was dead. And your guy, Reese Keller, I believe, picked up the ball, ran for a touchdown.
Yeah,
You beat us.
We beat
And
him.
my coach in that game said, look, guys, we dropped the ball. Actually, literally, if you want to think about it that way, like we didn't know the rules well enough. We could have done more to win. And the game didn't even come down to that one play because there were a lot of moments along the way where we screwed up.
Yeah.
And we left the game in question and allowed something out of our control to change. It's like, man, I just really am so tired of the finger pointing rather than taking accountability. I can't do that conversation anymore. I'm so tired of it.
Yeah, and to me, the thing that frustrates me is the Bills getting away from their identity and trying to become a tush push team. You know, you out there looking like the butt plugs. It was unbelievable. Like the whole structure of their tush push wasn't the same. You're in 3-by-1. You're not driving straight forward. Josh Allen going out to the left, and you have the broadcast team, you know, sitting there, Romo and Nance saying, "Oh yeah, we heard in the production meetings that the Chiefs know that he likes to lean off to his left, so we stack the right side of our defensive line, and we're going to make it difficult for him." And you do that 6 times in one game. I can't count on my fingers like the amount of times that the Buffalo Bills did that during the regular season. So on that 3rd down and on that 4th down, to me, to not put that in the hands of James Cook, to me was asinine. James Cook only had 13 carries, and it was an efficient 13 carries. It wasn't like, oh, he had one, 80-yard run that kind of made it average. His long was 33. And he was absolutely shredding Kansas City. I don't know why, especially midway through that 3rd quarter, they weren't leaning on him heavier. And to me, that was the difference in the game. Is typically you find somebody like Joe Brady who, when he calls these sorts of games, he's like, oh, wow, like we're really finding some space in the run game. Like, let's keep churning it, make it really, really hard. And then, boom, Josh Allen's out the back door with the keeper. Or, boom, Josh Allen keeps it on the RPO and just daggers you over the middle. Those kinds of things. And again, for him to only have 13 carries to me was a problem. And that's just before we even get into those short yardage situations. I think on defense, the Buffalo Bills defense, for I can't tell you how many times in a row under Sean McDermott in the biggest game, doesn't play their part, right? The Kansas City Chiefs hadn't scored over 30 points the entire season. And here you are giving it up to them. And this is what I said last week also. Kansas City's offense is going to look different. They've got guys coming back who are healthy. They've got guys that are getting reacclimated to the system, and they're going to be able to make plays like Juju Smith-Schuster. Finally, after his hamstring injury and ankle injury, he comes in and he makes a couple of big plays. Travis Kelce had a big catch. Everybody played a part. DeAndre Hopkins, his catch down the sideline for a first down for 11 yards. Like, those kinds of plays make the difference. And when this game boiled down to, okay, it was one possession game, what happened? The Bills had the ball. They had 2 or 3 timeouts and they had a minute and a half left. Like, that's prime time. This is, oh my goodness, like you actually left him too much time. He's going to go down, score a touchdown and ice the game. And you had a 4 and out. I mean, what do you want? Like that play, the short yardage play that got, the call was questionable. That happened at the beginning of the 4th quarter.
I want to say this real quick.
Kansas City scored and you scored.
That's the infuriating thing about this whole conversation is people online are arguing about a play when there was 13 minutes left in the fourth quarter. This wasn't their final drive. Like, they had another whole drive after where they had another opportunity with the ball. They had 2 fourth down failures in the fourth quarter, and people are caught up on the earlier one with 13 minutes left in the fourth quarter rather than, hey, later drop by Dalton Kincaid. I don't know, dude. I just, again, I'm just so tired of the excuse making, and I don't have much energy to give more to this conversation about the refs, but I want it to stop. I really want the ref conversation to stop, and rather, let's give credit to the people making plays like you just did. You know, the other part of this, by the way, Xavier Worthy was drafted by a draft pick that was once held by Buffalo. Buffalo traded the draft pick to Kansas City, allowing them to draft Xavier Worthy, who torched them. It's like, dude, Kansas City, they've gotten so much help from Buffalo over the years, and I just find it funny that, like, I don't know, man. I know I don't mean to change the conversation to the draft pick, but it's like, it's funny to me.
I mean, that's a big point you can bring up here. Like Dalton Kincaid, right? He was their first draft pick last year. I believe their draft pick in the first round last year, Dalton Kincaid.
Yep.
I think maybe 2 catches, and then you had Keon Coleman, one of your early draft picks this year. Didn't really produce anything in this game. So you got to start asking, okay, offensively, are we developing these guys, these high caliber guys that are supposed to impact our offense, right? That's why we drafted Dalton Kincaid, so we could have this, this 2 tight end matchup with him and Dawson Knox. But it certainly doesn't look like, Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. Not to say that it needed to be, but that was kind of your goal, right? To have 2 blocking but pass catching tight ends. And then, okay, Diggs is out the door. Let's go get ourselves Keon Coleman to help out in the pass game, develop a young receiver. And I really thought with the addition of Amari Cooper, at some point we were going to see a more mature, more prepared version of Keon Coleman. And it just didn't seem like we got that out of him this year. At the end of the day, Kansas City played a better game plan. Mahomes used his legs in a number of situations that we haven't seen before on a big fourth down. He had a rushing touchdown where it was basically a quarterback counter. Everything was, going the other way. And then he had Travis Kelce set a beautiful lead block for him to get into the end zone. Like, those are the kind of plays that make the difference.
The other thing about the 4th and 1, I don't remember the third. There's a 3rd and 3 play. It's a throw for 2 yards to Dalton Kincaid. I can't remember what happened on that play. I'm really stuck on the quarterback sneak that failed.
I think they ran it was the play right before.
Yeah.
They checked to a quick screen out to the right.
Got it.
Dalton Kincaid, or I can't remember, was it Kincaid that caught it?
Yeah, well, it was Dalton Kincaid, yeah.
He was a shoestring away from probably running for, if not a touchdown, at least 60, 70 yards.
So, to me, 4th and inches, I get it. You got a huge quarterback, you want to touch push. But I've always thought the best, most dangerous thing about Josh Allen is him on the perimeter where he can run or throw. A bootleg. You fake the run inside with James Cook, you get him out on the perimeter, and then it's him against a linebacker. Either tackle him, or the linebacker's got to play Josh Allen, and he's going to throw the ball usually to his chip route or his sail route coming across the field. Like, I love the play call, the bootleg, the boot action with Josh Allen. It's Cam Newton. It's a 6'5" massive dude you can't tackle in short yardage on the perimeter in a race with a linebacker. He's probably going to win. That's a better matchup. That's what I would call on 4th and inches almost every time with Josh Allen until you can find a way to stop it.
It's what they called in the big 4th down in the regular season. Yeah. Josh Allen, get out. Oh, nothing's there. Boom, I'm taking off and I'm running for the biggest 4th down of the game and icing the game.
Yep. Yeah.
Why would we go away from something like that? Did we think, tinfoil hat, Kansas City knows that we might run this play, so now we can't run this play, and now we have to try and do a tush push? Get out of here, man.
But it's another thing you have to stop it. It's like, sure, draw it up, but you can't be scared to, like, scheme up things that, I don't know. I hated that play call anyway. And then there's this whole debate about the refs, and I just, like, I don't know, man. I think you really got to look at Kansas City and go, man, a lot of guys made plays against Buffalo in this football game. And you have to give credit.
That they recovered a Chiefs fumble, and I know that the Bills didn't lose their fumbles, but when you put the ball on the turf, everybody does this. Oh, thank goodness we got it. And it just makes you a little nervous. And when you almost throw that interception, right? Josh Allen had 2 passes in the first drive. It just makes you a little nervous. because now you start to think about ball security. Oh man, we can't give it up. And maybe that's why they didn't go to James Cook. James Cook has fumbled in big games, not as much this year, but in the previous 2 years, he had fumbled in those bigger games. And I think I'm sorry, not previous 2 years, just last year. Maybe they were outthinking the room. I don't know, but they didn't seem prepared to handle the biggest moment.
What I will say, and social media doesn't matter. However, 4th and inches comes and you run the ball with James Cook rather than give the ball to Josh Allen, you're going to have hell to pay. I mean, if the play doesn't work and the play calls a halfback dive up the middle with James Cook and you get stopped, you're on fire the next day. You at least have to put the ball in the hands of Josh Allen. It didn't work, but I do like, hey, your playmakers got the ball. I just don't like the way they utilized him.
Yeah, I just would have liked to have seen James Cook, have it maybe on that 3rd down. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they had a run played, or maybe they had a run play called, and like I said, Josh checked out of it. But the bottom line is I think there was more ways it could have got James Cook involved because the Chiefs were having trouble tackling and pursuing him. I would have just leaned into that.
I think it's pretty brutal. I mean, I think the Bills were and have been so many times so close to this Super Bowl. They've been in this moment multiple times. It hasn't worked out. What do you make of the future for Buffalo? I mean, I think they might be better next year. Keon Coleman's going to be another year more experienced in training, you hope. I mean, maybe he can eventually become a true replacement for Stephon Diggs, something like that. But I think Stephon Diggs might have been a difference maker if they'd kept him, right? And it sounds like they couldn't. He wasn't happy, blah, blah, blah. But there's Stephon Diggs away from probably winning this football game, in my opinion. Honestly, that's what they need. What do you make of the future for Buffalo? Do they get back to this point next year? Is this too brutal of a loss? What's their future?
It's hard to argue that, right? Because I said that this year, and especially when they had that early ugly loss, I was like, these guys are frauds. They're going to crumble this year.
Yeah.
But, somehow they come together. And anytime you have Josh Allen at quarterback right now, the way he's developed and become the player that he is, you're going to win football games. You're going to have a chance to sneak into the playoffs. Worst case scenario, sneak into the playoffs. And if you sneak in with Josh Allen, then you've got a chance to win one. If you got a chance to win one, you've got a chance to win 2 more. So it is now officially hard for me to say that, I see this team kind of falling off a cliff, but he's far too talented for them to fall off a cliff. And, there's not much room to regress. If you do, maybe it's the divisional or the wild card round. So that's definitely on the table. But, going forward, I was calling for Sean McDermott's head, and, he's not a competent coach, but out of maybe his voice is just getting old in that locker room. We're running back the same things defensively. We're switching up a few things on offense, but it's still large in part the Josh Allen show. At what point do we say, hey, we just have to go back to the drawing board in its entirety? We can't keep trying to, erase here, replace that there, and move this over here. It might be time to just wipe the slate clean and see what you can create. But now this coaching cycle is pretty much gone. Best candidates are gone. You've got one perhaps in your building with Joe Brady. But after the way he called this most recent game, is that who I want to be my head coach? Really hard to say. And again, really hard to walk away from a coach that's consistently getting you to the divisional and to the AFC championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to criticize. And I want to cover your butt a little bit. I mean, they didn't just squeak into the playoffs. They were the number 2 seed. They were 13-4. They won their division outright.
Right.
They were a higher seed than the Ravens. I mean, this was a good year in a year that we had low expectations for Buffalo. And so I'm with you. It's hard to doubt them. It's hard to look ahead and be like, they're going to, it's like, well, we doubted them this year and look what happened. They clearly were capable, but once again, they ran into a buzzsaw called Kansas City. And I don't know what's going to change that in that equation. I think until proven otherwise, they're going to keep running into this buzzsaw called Kansas City and come out on the losing end of the equation.
Yeah. At a certain point, Kansas City's manufacturing that's just been exported to China. Just maximum efficiency, maximum value out of every single player on the roster, whether that's rookies, whether that's veterans, everyone is playing their part versus a new car startup, or I don't know, maybe all you got so the Ford F-150 and Josh Allen is your Ford F-150. And after that, what do you have? The Escape.
Yeah.
So that's just the difference.
Here's the thing. We earn points on groceries, travel, and practically everything else we buy. But we should also be earning points on rent. That's one of our biggest monthly expenses. Built changed the game by letting renters earn high value points on rent and around their neighborhood. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points toward. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/SOS. That's joinbilt.com/SOS. Make sure you use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/SOS to start earning points on your rent payments today. joinbilt.com/SOS. Joinbuilt.com/SOS. No you. Built BILT. Philly beat Washington 55-23.
Breaks off them.
You could feel this game slipping almost immediately. Like, first play of the game, Philly gets this awesome Saquon Barkley touchdown. And then, Washington fumbles on their second drive. That gives Philly another short field. And they get another touchdown, almost back-to-back Saquon Barkley touchdowns. You could just feel this game. Now, I thought, to the credit of Washington, they didn't crumble. They hung around a little longer. They kept it close. I thought when it was 14-3, ball game's over. It wasn't the case. It wasn't really till later that the game fully got away from them. But ultimately, a ton of turnovers, 4 touchdowns off of turnovers for Philly. Just a brutal game and a total domination for the Philadelphia Eagles. What do you make of this game? It wasn't what I wanted, but it makes sense when you look back at what happened. I go, yeah, I can explain that. It feels nothing's crazy here.
Yeah, big brother in the division came to play playoff football. We always talk about the difference in speeds between your regular season games, your division games, and your playoff games. And this, the teams had split the games, I believe, this year in the regular season. Mm-hmm. But you get to the playoffs, and these guys really, Vic Fangio starts dialing it up. Kellen Moore starts dialing it up. Saquon Barkley somehow finds another level to his game. He's in such a flow state right now. It's unbelievable. I've never seen this before. You just can't win. Like, this Philadelphia team is so talented, again, top to bottom, and is really playing like a well-oiled machine. They're not doing more than they have to. They're not doing less than they have to. Saquon Barkley's gashed them in the ground game, and that defense just starts to play with such aggression as the game goes on. It's almost like they get more aggressive. They start feeding off that energy that the offense is giving them. And like you said, all of a sudden it got out of hand. And I think in that first half, Washington, a team that had been fantastic with taking care of the football throughout this year, they just gave the ball to Philadelphia. And once Philadelphia gets rolling, they start to unleash the pass rushers. Good luck.
Yeah. I think today, one thing that stands out to me, Monday, January 27th is a painful day, like with enunciation for New York football fans. You're watching Saquon Barkley dominate, go to a Super Bowl with your division rival. But even funnier, actually, like a smaller, more nuanced, but Mekhi Becton, currently a starting offensive lineman for Philly, was once a first-round pick by the Jets, who watched him have a couple incredible blocks on Sunday in the NFC title game. And it's like, you never saw that in New York with the Jets. It's just funny, like, how much New York sports talent is guys who played for the Jets or the Giants are starting and making an impact in Philly. It's like, man, has there ever been a more clear example of good management and using your resources the right way? I'm happy for Saquon. Win or lose the Super Bowl, he's just in a way better spot for his career. He's got to be way happier. He's worth every penny to Philly. And it's funny the way this reflects badly on the Giants and the Jets. I'm like, of course you leave the Jets. Sam Darnold left the Jets. He's better off. Everyone seems to leave those two franchises and has a much better time.
Yeah, and it's really not even close. And, to go back to this game, right, you think about a guy like Zach Ertz, who's been in these kinds of games before. He was kind of the highlight for this Washington Commanders offense, right? A guy who's been there before, been in the moment, and he's trying to bring those guys with him. But amazing that he still has that much left in the tank. But, I mean, you really said it. This organization that Philadelphia has put together is so great at developing players. And again, Howie Roseman's doing an excellent job in the draft. They are just really setting themselves up for future success. They paid Jalen Hurts early. They got him his money, and it's not an exorbitant contract like you're seeing a few of these other guys get. These guys can be paid for. Are they going to have to, do quick work and probably win it this year or next year? Yeah, absolutely. But that's what you do. You identify that moment that you need to truly sell out, and you get after it, and you try and do what you can.
Yeah, let's give Zach Ertz credit. 11 catches, 104 yards, 16 targets. I mean, just how old is this guy? He's had such a long career. Zach Ertz is 34 years old, playing tight end, a really physical position, doing it in the playoffs at a high level. It's unfortunate that effort comes at a loss, but I got nothing but respect for Washington. I think you said it perfectly. That a team that took really good care of the football all year didn't hear. I find this game not that exciting. It was a dominant performance. Do you have any more you want to say about Washington against Philly?
Yeah, I just say that Washington should feel supremely confident about going into next year. Um, I feel like Jaden Daniels having a sophomore slump isn't something that I see. Just the way he's been composed and the way he's played, and obviously he's got his mom. Anytime you got a mom and a son that have that kind of close relationship, she's saying, "Hey, no girls allowed for my son. He's not dating anybody. He's not, flying anybody out. My son is locked in on football." That gives me the supreme confidence that not only did the Commanders draft the right guy, but they've got the right guy for the future as well. And they're going to have to add a few pieces offensively. They're going to have to add a few pieces defensively. But what I love to see was Dan Quinn's team competing to the very end, even with the whole, what's his name, that was just kept jumping over the pile and then jumping over the pile again and jumping over the pile, so much that the refs had to say, okay, if you keep committing this penalty, we're just going to give the other team points, which is insane.
I didn't know that was, it makes sense that's a rule, but I didn't know that was a rule. I had no idea that was even possible.
Imagine as a ref being so mad, just, we're about to give the team other points if you guys keep doing this.
Here's what I want to know. Who gets the touchdown? Like, what do you do statistically? Like, touchdown Washington, but like no one, or touchdown Philly, be like, no one gets credited the touchdown? Like, how do you keep record of that touchdown if that ever happens?
Does the head coach get a touchdown?
I don't know.
First head coach in NFL history with a touchdown
for Philly, but no player gets it. It's like, how do you?
Could you imagine if they did award it to the head coach and Nick Sirianni had a touchdown?
I really wish it had happened simply so I could see what the box score would say. Like, I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know that anyone would get it. It's just a weird, fun. Like, I didn't even know that was possible, but it was a really interesting moment in this game. What I want to say, Jaden Daniels understands. He's clearly got the maturity to handle his position. He is the mayor of his town. This is not Deshaun Watson we're dealing with. He's going to be owing money and having girls all over the place. And even, no offense to CJ Stroud, but like, we saw what his offseason looked like and some of the company he was keeping and the headlines he was making, and they weren't all positive. It's like, no, this is Jaden Daniels, and he's going to keep his stuff locked down tight. And I'm really excited for the future in Washington, very clearly. And by the way, they kept Cliff Kingsbury so far. I think it's going to remain that way. But I don't see Cliff Kingsbury leaving, and that's a huge victory. Even if he just has one more year and then he leaves Washington, you get 2 years of really successful Jaden Daniels play. By year 3, I think he's comfortable enough. You can replace him with a subpar or lesser offensive coordinator and still be okay. Right. Bring in like name any random coach. He's going to be established enough that he can work with nearly anyone, I think, by year 3, personally.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right idea.
I look ahead. So this Philadelphia Eagles team, they're almost, it's like it's an embarrassment of riches. They can run the ball so incredibly well.
It is.
Saquon Barkley, if we forget sometimes, Jalen Hurts, when healthy, can run the football too. Then they've got incredible receivers out wide, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. I don't know that they should be the favorite, I guess, in my opinion. Philly, is so talented. Their defense is firing on all cylinders. They got players everywhere. I know that's an insane thing to say because Kansas City is Kansas City, but on paper, if it's Madden, this team is loaded, and I'm not sure how you stop them. What's great is they're playing against, this Kansas City defense, this Kansas City team. Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator in Kansas City, he's a master. It's just such a fun. We started the show. You said this is gonna be a great football game. It's awesome, this matchup, right?
It is. This matchup's going to be amazing. And you got two, again, great coaching staffs. Now, do I
Mm.
think that as a head coach, Andy Reid is better than Sirianni? Yes, but you start going down to the coordinators. You've got Kellen Moore against Matt Nagy. Honestly, neither one has proven to have tremendous success without, an excellent quarterback, right? Matt Nagy, obviously, he had to deal with Mitch Trubisky when he was with the Bears. Things didn't go so well, right? So he came back to Kansas City. And then you've got Vic Fangio against Steve Spagnuolo, two guys who have been around the league a lot, two guys that like to send pressure a lot, two guys that like to change up the looks on a consistent basis. So this really is going to be a game of chess. The thing that does concern me is the way that James Cook was gashing the Kansas City Chiefs, despite the Bills not going back to him over and over again. Man, if you give Saquon Barkley 6.5 yards a carry, there's a few touches that James Cook, took for 10, 11 yards that Saquon Barkley can score. And that's the biggest difference between guys like Saquon and the rest of the great running backs in the league is he has that ability to turn those 10, 12-yard runs into touchdowns with one extra move in an instant. So that concerns me for Kansas City is just the big play ability on the outsides to A.J. Brown and to Devontae Smith, and then with Saquon Barkley in the run game. When you can produce explosive plays in both of those areas on a consistent basis, that's going to be hard for any defense. So I think, okay, what's Spagnuolo going to do? Are you going to load the box and say we're going to stop Saquon and force Jalen Hurts to throw? Okay, you've got Trent McDuffie, who's outsized by A.J. Brown. And then I'm not sure who's up next at corner for Kansas City Chiefs, but then they've got Devontae Smith. That's not easy.
What's interesting to me is how do I say this? I think there's going to be some kind of betting line on Saquon Barkley over under 2 touchdowns or 1 touchdown or something. There's going to be some component, going into the Super Bowl about how many touchdowns, if any, is Saquon Barkley going to have. And I'm almost certain there's going to be some big play where he breaks off it, maybe early, maybe kind of like we saw in the Washington game, akin to like a Devin Hester-esque, kickoff return for a touchdown against the Colts back in the day. Like he's going to have some big play early while people are napping and kind of caught up in all the flair because he's not going to be the bright lights aren't going to be bright for him. He's going to be locked in and make a big play and kind of catch people unaware. I could see that happening early on in the first quarter of the Super Bowl.
What do you think about the quarterback matchup? Who has to do what between Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes for their team to win? What is that going to look like?
Oh man. I mean, the thing is, Jalen Hurts has so much help that he's got to be. He just can't get in his own way. He can't have bad interceptions. I think Mahomes could throw 3 interceptions and probably still win the Super Bowl. Honest, I know it's a weird thing to say, but like if anyone could do it, he can. Jalen Hurts can't overcome huge missed opportunities. Fumbles, interceptions. He's got to take care of the football and then be accurate downfield. I mean, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to either load the box or allow and have one-on-ones downfield or not. And I think what's going to happen, Casey's going to load the box, try to take away Saquon. You're going to get good matchups outside, and then it's on Jalen Hurts to dial up good throws into single coverage to Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. And that's probably the key to this football game is what kind of passing game does Philly have downfield over the top? And I don't know. I mean, it's a huge question mark to me. I have no concerns about Patrick Mahomes. He's got to keep up with what's going to be, I think, a productive offense in Philly. But I think this is it's a weird thing to say. I think this is Philly's game to lose, honestly. And it's 2 interceptions here or there that's going to cause a huge problem for Philly. And if they can avoid turnovers, take care of the football, it's pretty likely I think they're going to win this football game. But that's a huge if and but, and I don't know that he's capable of out-dueling Patrick Mahomes. Good news is he's got a great running game to fall back on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right there. And outdueling Pat Mahomes, I don't think is what you want to get into. Although the Super Bowl 2 years ago, you could argue that he did in that moment. And now, granted, these are 2 entirely different teams. They're structured differently. Their defensive highlights are different, and it's going to look different, I think, than it did a couple of years ago. But the biggest thing I think for Jalen Hurts to do is not to hold on to the football. If the Kansas City defense can figure out to just create enough unsurety for Jalen Hurts to be like, I can't let this ball go, and then force Jalen Hurts to go for those 3, 4, 5-yard rushes that annoy a defense, but also starts to annoy your offense and your offensive coordinator because you're like, dude, get rid of the football. I get that you're getting like 3 or 4 yards, but we're trying to like move the change, not just, kind of chunk it down. So If they can force him to hold on to the football, I think that's going to be the key to success for Kansas City. It's stop the run and force Jalen Hurts, obviously, to throw the football, but more importantly, force him to hold on to the football. Create the complex look so that he just has that moment of indecision, because that's when Jalen Hurts is at his worst.
Well, think of the Rams game, though, right? Where Jalen got sacked 7 times and it didn't matter. I mean, Saquon ran for 200-something yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, I think you can get away with a less than stellar performance by Jalen Hurts and still win this football game. What you can't have is turnovers. Like, he can have a quiet game. He can't have a detrimental game. Jalen Hurts has to stay out of his own way. Take care of the football. Get your handoffs, hit a couple deep shots. You probably win. I don't think you need 400 yards from Jalen Hurts to win. What can't happen is 2 interceptions, a fumble and an interception, 300, like whatever. Like, you can't have turnovers from Jalen Hurts. That's going to be the key, because you can't give Kansas City a short field to work with. You can't hand them a new advantage, another advantage, or another edge to help them win this football game.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is Kansas City maximizes and makes the most out of every turnover, every inch that you give them. So you can't give them an inch. And on the flip side, for Kansas City, their offense has to be ready to score. So that fumble that Pat had in the first half while they were driving, they could have gone up, 14-3. That fumble against the against the
Buffalo.
Eagles is going to be if you have a fumble like that against the Eagles, I think that's going to be more detrimental than it was against the Bills. And did the Bills go down and score? Yes. But against an Eagles team that catches a lead, that defense is entirely different than the Bills defense. So there is absolutely zero room for error from this Kansas City offense. And that's not on Pat. That's going to be on Pacheco. It's going to be on Kareem Hunt and all the receivers who are pass catching. It will be demanded of them to make a big individual play. And again, that's what we've seen from Kansas City over the Super Bowl run. It's always a big individual play from somebody that maybe you don't expect. You got Kadarius Toney had the big run against the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Last year, you had Marquez Valdez-Scantling catch that big touchdown over the middle, kind of start that comeback. And then this year, in the most recent game, you got a third down to convert to ice the game to Samaje Perine. Boom, game over. And it's going to be, they're just going to need those kinds of plays again. And that's hard to do, but it seems like they continue to do it.
So Philly's a better team than Buffalo. I think everyone agrees that they're just a more complete.
I think head and shoulders.
However, and I know Kansas City just played a 3-score game against Buffalo where they eked it out, right? I don't think that matters that Philly's better. I think no matter what, Kansas City's look, if one team wins a blowout, it's going to be Philly. If one team wins by 20, 30 points, Philly's going to beat Kansas City. I don't see Kansas City beating Philly by 30 points. That's not on the table, in my opinion. But I don't think it's a problem that Philly's better, because what I've seen all year from Kansas City is they rise to the occasion. No matter what situation you put them in, they're going to find a way to stay close, stay in the game, and maybe more than likely figure it out how to win that football game. That's what they've done every single time they've been given an opportunity this year. Have they lost a close game this year? That's a good question. I don't know that they have.
No, because their loss to the Bills was by 2 possessions, or a possession and a half, I believe, after Josh Allen iced it, and then obviously the loss against the Broncos. But
Denver 38-0.
That doesn't really count.
Yeah, they have 2 losses all year: 30-21 to Buffalo, and 38-0 to Denver, in a garbage time game end of the year. Like, man, I don't know, man. I'm really excited. Another storyline here we haven't talked about is just the idea of it's another. Think of how much crap Philly gave Andy Reid on his way out of Philly. They've already lost 1 Super Bowl to Andy Reid. It's another opportunity to lose to your former head coach, and how Andy Reid's changed the narrative completely about his time in Philly. And I find that slightly fun. Now, here's what I really want to get into, though, if I can.
Is yes, Nick Sirianni could be fired if he loses a second Super Bowl.
Really? So I don't think it's on the table at all. I think Sirianni's secure.
I'm more so trolling, but go into what you were gonna say.
What I want to say, I think Philly's a better team. I think better on paper, but what I think is different from what I want. All year I've been rooting for Kansas City to pull out the 3-peat. Like, I think that's just cool and special. It's never been done before. We've never seen an NFL team win 3 Super Bowls in a row. Now we're 60 minutes. We're 4 quarters away from that happening. And I'm like, yeah, like No, dude, I can't lose here. If Philly wins, it's really cool. I love Jalen Hurts. Think about where Jalen Hurts was a couple of years ago when he got benched for Tua. Now Jalen Hurts is going to his second Super Bowl. Like, this is a guy who was once a backup at Alabama who lost his job going to his second Super Bowl as a starting quarterback. Like, so if Jalen Hurts wins a Super Bowl, it's incredible. That's so cool. I'd be happy for the guy. I think Saquon Barkley's a cool story. Like, I can't go wrong. If Philly wins, that's awesome. But for me, what I'm rooting for is history. I think it'd be so cool to see what's never been done. The only way you're not going to, we even talked about this on text the other day. Patrick Mahomes lost to Tom Brady twice in the playoffs. He lost in the AFC title game in 2018. He lost in the Super Bowl to Tampa in 2020. So head to head, Mahomes lost twice to Brady. That's their only overlap, really. But we never got anything like that with Jordan and LeBron. There was never like a finals game or a conference finals, nothing like that. So we got a little bit of Mahomes Brady. But the one thing Mahomes could do that Brady never could do and never did do is win 3 Super Bowls in a row. That's special. No one's ever done that. In my, early on in the 90s, Denver won 2 in a row. It's people that won 2 in a row. No one's won 3, let alone, it's just so special to see that. I'm rooting for that. I'm rooting for that history.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know me, like, I'm a big Pat Mahomes guy and a Pat Mahomes fan. And I love seeing
Is that what that is? I've always wondered about that logo on your shirt.
Yeah, this is you can see there's the letter P in there, and then it's a gladiator helmet is what it is. And then you've got the M in there.
So that's a Patrick Mahomes sweatshirt. This whole time, you've been stealthily wearing Mahomes gear.
I think this is like my second, maybe third time on the show. I don't like to wear too much color because it pops too hard.
Yeah.
But I couldn't resist. But I didn't want to wear. I've got a Kansas City hoodie that I got, from my time working with the league a little bit. And I was like, that's a little bit too aggressive to put on. Let me go a little subtle with it.
But you're a subtle Mahomes fan. I mean, you met him, you worked with him a little bit.
Yeah, not even subtle Mahomes fan. I'm a very big Mahomes fan.
Yeah.
And I know there's tons of haters for him out there. And I'm going to talk to a few people at work when I get into the office tomorrow about it. But if there's a side that I'm picking, it would be Kansas City. But I'm also not heartbroken if the Eagles were to win this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it'd be great for the Eagles to win the game, to win it. And I saw something funny as well. They destroyed the Patriots dynasty winning in 2017 or 18, I think, with Nick Foles. And then they have the chance to, knock off Kansas City in their dynasty as well.
I think that my suspicion is most Americans are going to be rooting for, and most football fans, I mean, globally even too, are probably rooting against Kansas City. I think most people are tired of them. There's that whole narrative that the refs are on their side, blah, blah, blah. I just take the opposite approach. I think we're on the cusp of true history. Like, it's never been done before. It'd be cool to see that happen. I want the Chiefs to do something historic, which is win the 3rd Super Bowl in 3 years. But I think you and I are in the minority in leaning towards Kansas City. But also, again, rooting for someone is not the same as believing they're going to win.
True.
And I've got great reverence and a lot of fear that what I want isn't going to happen because Philly is just loaded. They're like Ohio State was this year in college football. They've got no holes. They're loaded everywhere. They've got great play callers, great coordinators. It's hard to find a problem with this football team in Philly.
And we said that 2 years ago. And then we said it last year with San Francisco. So to your point, it's just the way Kansas City rises to the occasion. And now that we've seen there's a clear pattern of teams changing their identity, thinking that they have to play a certain way to beat Kansas City instead of just being who they are. And I've got faith that the Eagles will be who they are because I think Jalen Hurts learned his lesson, which is why he's been so okay with his performances this year. They've been up, they've been down, but he's stayed right here. We're winning games. We're winning games. We're winning games. I don't need to be throwing for 900 yards. I don't need to be rushing for 1,000 yards. I just want my team to win. And I think that's going to be the difference this year for Philadelphia is that battle-hardened, experience-given, earned right to be like, no, we run the ball with Saquon Barkley, and then we're going to gash you deep with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and that's how we're going to beat you. It's going to be nothing clever and nothing crazy, and then we're going to get after you on defense. And I think if they just do that, and I'm way oversimplifying it, if they just do that, they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, think about the Chiefs' Super Bowl history. They beat the Jimmy Garoppolo 49ers. That was a loaded football team. They lose to Tampa 31-9 in 2020. Then they beat a loaded Philly team 2 years ago. Last year, they beat a loaded Brock Purdy-led 49ers team. So they beat the 49ers twice in the Super Bowl. This is their second time playing Philly in the Super Bowl, Kansas City. Last time they beat Philly in a close game. This is a better iteration of a Philly team. I think it's a more complete, more dangerous, better. You got the best running back in football with Saquon Barkley, a slightly older, more knowledgeable, more comfortable, say, Jalen Hurts with another receiver, Devontae Smith. I think it's a better Eagles team. And people keep trying. Like every year, they're like, well, let's step it up a little more and send a little better team from the NFC to try to beat Kansas City. And maybe this is the year, maybe. But like, I think as much as I have confidence in Philly, you shouldn't doubt Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. They've given us no reason to not believe in them.
Yeah, it seems like they're a team that whenever they need a score or a big play, they get it. And that's what makes them.
But not from the
makes them tough.
refs. That's from guys stepping up. Let's be clear.
Of all these penalties, I believe there's been 0 first downs. I'm not even going to get into what I read. Bottom line is Kansas City makes the big plays when they need to. So far, the Eagles have done that this year, and it kind of ran away from teams. It's just gonna be such a great matchup. I just can't wait to sit down, chill out, watch the whole thing. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, 15-2 Eagles team. Sorry, a 15-2 Chiefs team, a 14-3 Eagles team. The regular season. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be awesome. I don't have much more to add. I think we'll have more next week leading into the Super Bowl. We'll have a week to marinate and listen to Reddit and listen to. That's the only social media I'm on, by the way. I just read Reddit now, and God, is it entertaining? Oh my gosh,
it's so entertaining.
But I don't really know how to position this show next week because I think a lot of the news is going to have happened, and it's going to be diving in one more time on what we think is going to go down in the Super Bowl. But I'm so excited, man. And we can have fun with it. We can talk about like snacks and like our plans, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just really I hope we can fill out an hour next week. I really am like, I don't know what to do because there's one game happening and there's nothing to react to, and I will see.
Maybe we'll talk about some of the Pro Bowl games.
Yep.
Sick. But did you know that the reserve Pro Bowl quarterback is going to the Super Bowl, actually?
Who is that?
Pat Mahomes was the reserve AFC quarterback.
Oh my God, really?
But Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson can go now,
Yeah, because they're, yeah. Who's going to win MVP? I guess we can talk about that. I think that'll have happened by next week, right?
Saquon Barkley, I believe the award show is this Friday.
Yeah.
I want to say NFL award.
So that'll give us something to talk about next week.
I'm sorry. Saquon Barkley to me is a league MVP.
Yeah.
And I know that playoffs don't count, but to me, playoffs is the last taste that everybody has in their mouth of these athletes. Saquon Barkley to me the entire year, and I think we've talked about it, that to me the Eagles are Saquon Barkley away from being 500. Some of the plays that he's made for this team to either put teams away or to get them back when they needed a spark has been more impactful than anything Lamar Jackson has done and more impactful than anything that Josh Allen has done. And the proof is in the pudding for where those where those three teams are. You've got a team in the Super Bowl truly led by Saquon Barkley, and then you've got two teams that are hitting the showers. Cancun on 3.
Yeah. No, it's the difference he's made is obvious.
It is like in the true definition of value to your team. I just think Saquon's got it.
On top of that, I want to also give respect to Howie Roseman, the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, he's far and away the best general manager in football. It's kind of almost insane how good he is. But this is a guy who won a Super Bowl in 2018, who then brought a team back a couple of years ago, 2 years ago. Then now as a third team in the Super Bowl. I say it's the same franchise with different iterations and different teams he's built repeatedly, rebuilding, and
new head coach, new coordinators.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really. I mean, like I don't know how you don't look at him as the best guy. Is he maybe the best general manager ever? I'm pretty comfortable saying that. Probably, yeah.
I mean, you got Brett Veach.
But he's got Patrick Mahomes. I know that's kind of lame, but like
but he drafted Patrick Mahomes.
But
kind of important.
But think of like the draft picks that have hit in Philly. I mean, they've got 2 rookie corners this year starting that are, what I mean? Like it goes on and on and on. Like Will Shipley had a touchdown and had a huge run. Like there are so many examples of draft picks and trades and free agency moves, and it's as much as I respect Brett Veach, Howie Roseman's head and shoulders better as a general manager. Like
Howie's great, but I got beef with Howie.
What's your beef?
Yeah, he cut one
Who'd
of
he steal from you?
he cut one of my boys when I didn't think he deserved it, and I thought he was better than the backers
Oh.
on the roster. And this was during the dirty Doug Peterson years when things weren't going great, and I was like, "There's no way that my boy shouldn't be on the roster." But whatever.
Fair enough. Do you want to talk about head coaches? Because we have some moves that have happened in
Yeah,
the
a lot
NFL.
of coaches, a lot of coordinators, and a lot of former head coaches and high-profile coordinators on the move.
Can we start with the Raiders, actually?
Yeah.
They hired Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is now head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know what to make of it. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I'm like, hey, I don't honestly know who the Raiders were supposed to hire. There's not a lot of great names available. Of all the names out there, this is not the worst. This is not a terrible. I don't know that he's going to win them a Super Bowl, but he's certainly going to change the culture a little bit. And that's kind of what they need, is some new energy, reset stuff. It's a guy who won at USC, won a Super Bowl in Seattle. He's been around the league, done a lot of stuff. What do you make of Pete Carroll as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders?
Yeah, I mean, he's stepping into a division with Andy Reid, multiple Super Bowls, Sean Payton, a Super Bowl, Jim Harbaugh, been to a Super Bowl. You can't just bring in anybody off the street to go and scheme against these guys week in and week out, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the city of Las Vegas is crazy. There's the glitz, there's the glam. Although it's out deep in the desert, there's always something going on in Las Vegas to distract people. Rewind the clock back to USC. USC in his tenure there, this was during like the unregulated era of NCAA football, and you had Snoop Dogg on the sideline and these celebrities, and you're paying people out the back door. So he is familiar with handling situations where there is a lot for athletes to get involved in off the field, if you will. So that's reason number 2 that I think it's a great hire. And 3, while he focuses on the defense, he hasn't always been tone deaf to offense, and I think that things went south when he was in Seattle. And unfortunately, I think that he has some staff building that needs to come together for his teams to be great. Yeah. And I think that if he can do that, hire the right guy on offense, get the right guy to help him out on defense, I think he's going to be excellent. And then the other big piece is, who do you have at quarterback? Because you've got Bo Nix, who looks like he's ascending. You got Justin Herbert and Pat Mahomes in the division. You need somebody who can sling the rock.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a guarantee that it's going to work.
I mean, let's be clear, for anybody, it's going to be hard to work in that division.
But I think what they need is someone to set the tone and create a culture. And
I'd agree.
I think Pete Carroll can do that. I mean, I don't know what success looks like for Pete Carroll. But I look around at who they could have hired. It's like, is it Deion Sanders and like his son? You got to trade up in the draft. Do you go get no offense to like Ben Johnson, right? I love Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's not the guy to fix the Raiders. Like, it's too tall of a task, in my opinion, right? I shouldn't be a first time head coach. It kind of I actually like, the more I talk about it, the more I like work through it in my brain. I'm like, I actually love it more and more, because it's like, I don't think anyone's going to succeed in this position. The division's crazy. The franchise is frankly dog shit. Like,
roster's bad.
It's a bad position. But you got Max Crosby. You got people that can set the tone. Like, I think Max Crosby, for example, is a great guy to like.
They're getting rid of Max
your
Crosby.
Star player. But my point is, like, I think that in an impossible task, this name, like, throw it out there, like, you know what? This could work. I'm not sure it's going to work, but it's way more likely than a Ben Johnson or a Liam Coen or some first-time head coach who hasn't built a culture before and hasn't won at a huge level and faced giants, quite frankly, like Pete Carroll has. It's interesting to me. It really is. It grabs my attention. I go, you know what? Probably about the best possible hire you could have for the Raiders.
Yeah, a very respectable hire. And again, if he can build the right staff, they'll have some success, and it will look more professional. The last, however many years, even going back to Gruden, things have not looked professionally run in Las Vegas. And I think that that's what he is going to bring, that level of professionalism that says, hey, in the building, we do things a certain way. And that's going to do wonders, hopefully, for the organization. And hopefully, there's been a lot of owners this year. It seems like in the offseason, during the season, they made a few more headlines than they wanted. And I think that there might have been an ego check for a lot of these owners, like Shad Khan included, the owner of the Jets, the owner of the Bears. everybody kind of taking a step back, and hopefully Mark Davis is doing the same thing and being like, you know what, Pete, like, I'm going to give you a chance to get your thing done.
You know what this feels like to me is Bill Parcells taking over the Dallas Cowboys when he did early on, like in the early 2000s, and kind of took on the reins of like trying to
Pre Jason Garrett.
Yeah. And actually, what they should have done is probably promoted Sean Payton to head coach. They didn't, but it's that energy where it's like I don't think Pete Carroll is the guy to take them to like a Super Bowl, but he's going to start enough change and shake it up and maybe find a right guy to elevate to head coach or something along those lines. Like it's certainly a better step forward than anything else you could have done. And I don't know who the quarterback is. I don't think they know who the quarterback is. John Spytek, who's got a really crazy name for an NFL GM, is really interesting to me. First time GM. Like there's a lot of questions left to be figured out in the Raiders organization, but they got a big name. They got stability. They got a guy who's won a ton. And I just go back to like, I don't know. It honestly was like an impossible task trying to find a head coach for them, I think. And I think they did the best they possibly could have when it came to hiring a head coach.
Yep, I agree.
How about this? The Dallas Cowboys hired a new head coach. They promoted offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer to head coach, which is such a lame, crappy. It's like imitation crab. It's like, is anyone that excited for it? It's fine. You do some good stuff with it, but it's like I'm so disappointed and let down by this lame hire. Another pawn for Jerry Jones to kind of boss around and will do whatever he wants, and it's spineless and super disappointing if you're a Cowboys fan that wants to win. What do you make of the Brian Schottenheimer hire in Dallas?
Yeah, I'm indifferent about it. Schottenheimer's a guy who's been around the NFL for a long time. It's not like he doesn't have experience and he's not qualified. I think that he's got, some capabilities that can come through. The biggest thing for me is this confirms that Mike McCarthy kind of left on his own volition because they were clearly not prepared. I think that the Cowboys truly thought that Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys were going to come together for a deal on an extension on the contract. That's how I see it. Because otherwise, why would you go out into this market? Why would you have waited so long and you didn't fire McCarthy, but then now you agree to part ways like a week and a half later, you miss out on the coaching cycle and then you hire Schottenheimer.
No,
Like
dude.
what's the purpose of that?
But what you're doing, I mean this, and with all respect to you, man, you're applying way too much logic to Jerry Jones. You're giving him too much credit. You're for real. Like I think.
No, I'm not giving him too much credit. I'm saying he effed up. I think that he thought that Mike McCarthy was going to agree to a contract extension. And then when Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys couldn't come to that, and McCarthy walks out the door and he's like, okay, now I don't have McCarthy. I wasn't planning on doing a head coaching search. Who's still available? Who can I
don't think it's that. I think it's that he couldn't decide what he wanted to do. I think there was all this because Jerry Jones has all these weird like we're family and this, and I think he really like didn't know what to do and couldn't figure it out and drug his feet and like Jerry Jones' indecision and lack of willingness to. No offense, frankly, he needs to hire like a Jim Harbaugh and get the hell out of the way. He needs to hire a strong-willed, great personality to take his golden goose and turn it into something good. He should have hired a Pete Carroll. I mean, Pete Carroll is head coach of the Dallas Cowboys with rope and room to get out of the way, but Jerry Jones refuses to get out of the way, and he only hires, I think, kind of weak personalities that aren't going to challenge him and say crazy stuff at the mic and going to get out of the way because he doesn't want his ego's too big to handle another person in that room. So I think it's dysfunction. I think it's disorganization, and then it's ultimately an unwillingness to hire a strong personality at head coach. That's how you end up at this point with Brian Schottenheimer.
And hear me out here. Who wants that job?
Nobody.
Who wants to be tied to Dak Prescott for $60+ million a year and deal with Jerry Jones?
Nobody.
There probably I'm not saying that there probably wasn't a ton of candidates, but after the coaches that have been hired, the remaining, assistants and maybe, guys that aren't Mike McCarthy, like there wasn't a lot to do you want to hire Rex Ryan? Like, I mean, that's what it was coming down to. There weren't a lot of options out there in the first place. And whatever good options were out there, nobody wants to deal with that situation. And it's a situation that, like you said, Jerry Jones has put the Cowboys in himself solely.
I'm in a really good position in my career in that I work for a company that lets me I sell stuff and I sell stuff my way. I've got my own process. I'm given total free reign to do whatever I want. I don't have anyone micromanaging me. I don't have anyone telling me to read a script or follow these certain little outlines or whatever. I'm able to do it my way, and my way works for me really well, actually. And I'm really grateful I don't have people micromanaging me. I would never want to work for a boss who's going to be controlling, tell me what to do, not let me have the freedom to do it my way. Jerry Jones is that. Jerry Jones is the guy who doesn't let you have your own style, have your own voice, speak your mind. He wants to control every aspect of you. And it's like, dude, you're not the head coach. You hired me to do this job, and yet you're going to hamstring me and handcuff me the entire way. I would hate to work for Jerry Jones. I think it'd be really frustrating. And I think other coaches can see that. Like, I think there was conversation at some point, I don't know how far it went, about Deion Sanders, for example, being head coach of the Cowboys. I don't know that it went very far, but I think that conversation happened a little bit. I'm sure he reached out, Deion and him talked, and I think Deion's like, dude, I don't want to work. This guy, love you, Jerry, but I'm not going to work for you. I'm too strong of a personality.
And not only that, he's not just the owner, but he's the general manager as well.
Mm-hmm.
So coaches come in, they have a vision for what they want their team to look like, from their offensive line to their D-line, their backers, their running backs. They have a look that they want to put out on the field. If you can't get on the same page with the general manager, because the general manager's got his own ideas for what he wants the team to be, you're already setting yourself up for failure. And I think that's part of it too. And we saw that backfire in Jacksonville. Shad Khan interviewed all these different guys, and they said, we don't want to work with the current general manager. Like, I either fire him or we're not going to do it. And it took until getting to Liam Coen, when guys like Ben Johnson were out the door. He's like, shit, like, I really can't have this GM. Fires the GM, gets a head coaching candidate. So maybe there's a chance that Mike McCarthy was like, hey, I want more say in personnel. Jerry's like, no. Same with Deion Sanders. Like, hey, like, we should bring in a GM. We should structure the team this way. And Jerry's like, no, I'm the guy. So again, we're beating a dead horse at this point, but Jerry is the root cause of the problems right now in Dallas.
Well, to add one more point to this, to further enunciate the dysfunction in Dallas, you've got an owner whose ego is wrapped up in every single move the team makes. Every failure or success is a direct reflection of him. So Ezekiel Elliott has 3 touchdowns. Oh yeah, I'm a great GM. I did that. Then he fails, and it's like, wow, but he's family, and I want him to work, so I'm going to keep him and really keep him too long because he's my pick, and I believed in him. And there's all this ego wrapped up in decisions that can't be made from an ego-driven perspective. It can't be made with emotion. Part of what makes a good GM is they're cold and calculated. They drop all emotion and go, dude, this is brutal. I know you had 2 touchdowns last week, but like, we're cutting you. Like, whatever, right? Something like that.
Right.
You have to not let your emotions dictate your decision making, and Jerry Jones is incapable of that. That's not the guy who should be picking the players, and then also he's writing the checks, and he's writing your check. So then you've got this weird power dynamic and threat all the time. You got to do what he says, and it sounds terrible to me. I would hate it so much.
Don't sign me up. Actually, maybe sign me up. It's a lot. It's a lot of money.
We'll be co-head coaches of the Dallas Cowboys anytime you want, Jerry.
I get to be the walk around guy.
Give me a 2-year deal, a cool $5 million. I'm cheap, dude.
I'm cheap. I'm easy.
$5 million, 2, 3, dude. Give me 5 years. I don't care. $1 million a year. Sign me up. I'll write the handcuff contract right now. I don't care.
That and a company car would be great.
Yeah. A company card. I want you to pay for my gas too. It's really nice when Jerry's paying for the gas. The Jaguars hired Liam Coen, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator as head coach. I think one thing before we get into the Jaguars perspective, I kind of feel bad for the Buccaneers. They keep having to replace their offensive coordinator every single year. They defy expectations. Baker does well, and then the guy leaves, and you're like, we're back to square one again, trying to find another offensive coordinator in Tampa. It's like they're a victim of their own success, quite frankly. And by the way, this is why you hire an offensive head coach, because you're not going to lose your coordinator after a little bit of success with the quarterback.
People are going to have to start asking, is it Baker Mayfield or is it the coordinators? If Baker has another good year on offense, we're like, oh, shit, who's actually good here?
Yeah, because look at how great Carolina was.
Yes. Hey, at the end of the season, though.
Sure.
Bryce Young led the league.
Well, look at how Baker was. You know what I mean? Like
throws.
Anyway, Liam Coen, you sent me a video on Twitter of him, X, whatever you want to call it. The most cringy, like, Duval, like Duval, motherfucker.
Gubernatorial.
I don't know. I don't know. Liam Coen, what do you make of this hire? It could be worse. It could be better. But by this point in the process, there weren't a lot of great names out there. So
Yeah.
it's an offensive coach going to work with Trevor Lawrence. I think it's kind of the best you're going to get, right? For the Jaguars.
For me, with the guys remaining, it would have been between Liam Coen and Mike McCarthy. Just for the offensive acumen. Again, with Mike McCarthy, you obviously get a little more veteran presence. You maybe might not be as sharp on like the nitty gritty details, but you'd get Trevor Lawrence playing some good football. With Liam Coen, we're going to see if that offense was as good as advertised. I don't know, what he's putting together for the rest of his staff, and we'll find out here soon who he brings at DC and OC. But yeah, another one of those hires where it's like I'm interested. We'll see if it works, but I'm not holding out hope for all of a sudden this Jaguars team is going to go to 12, 13 wins. And it could happen. Maybe Trevor Lawrence starts playing great football. Maybe they get the right defensive coordinator, but it's a big we'll see. Jacksonville is a project, not just because it's historically not a great team, but because it's just one of those franchises that might be a little bit cursed. Like the Jets, like the Raiders, just might be a little bit cursed.
Yeah, what's interesting about this, Liam Coen said no to the Jaguars initially, and then agreed to an extension with the Buccaneers, and then ultimately got roped back into coaching the Jaguars. That's a weird way to start. I don't know.
Because of the general manager. Because Liam, that was the whole situation. Liam Coen went and interviewed, and he said no. And Tampa Bay said, hey, we're going to make you the highest paid offensive assistant. And we're going to bring you back under the condition that you don't go interview with anybody else. So that's why he went back in secret after Shad Khan said he was firing the general manager, and he went back and then accepted the job. So that's kind of what happened.
Yeah. Fair. I mean, I'm not 100% certain this is going to work. It's an unknown new head coach who's never done the job before. I think it's a big question mark. It could be worse. I would have liked Ben Johnson more, but that's even still another unknown. Like, I think what needs to happen in Jacksonville is they need a responsible adult. And I don't know if they're going to find one. I mean, I actually look back at the Chargers hiring of Jim Harbaugh with new perspective. Man, they made a playoff game. It's working really well. Like, how did the Chargers land Harbaugh? Like, how did the rest of the NFL not more heavily pursue him? It's crazy to me, like that, because his name, like, he would solve so many problems in so many organizations right now that can't get Jim Harbaugh. It's like, man,
if I'm the Bills, I would have fired Sean McDermott and I would have hired Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's LA.
I mean, not literally, but
I think Harbaugh's really comfortable in the warm weather and the short sleeve shirts. Like, you live in California, you know how great it is. I'm cold as hell. I would love to live in LA, other than the fires maybe, but I couldn't afford that. And I think that's part of the recruitment process for the Chargers. Like, come be warm, come and have a good life out here. And I don't know, like, a Buffalo could have done that, but man, I think Jacksonville, Buffalo, like, this endless amount of teams could have really benefited from a Jim Harbaugh stabilizing their franchise. And that's frankly what ultimately I think the Jaguars need. I'm not sure Liam Coen is the adult in the room that is really necessary in Jacksonville, but he's what they got. Yeah. And we'll see if it works.
Yeah, and he kind of needs to do what I see Ben Johnson doing. If we want to quickly talk about him, he's getting the right people in his staff. First guy he's going with, his defensive coordinator, is going to be Dennis Allen from the Saints, a guy who's been a head coach in the league.
Ben Johnson, you mean, in Chicago?
Yeah. Yes. What did I say?
Oh, no, I'm just making sure, because it was kind of all over. You're saying Ben Johnson hired Dennis Allen as his defensive coordinator in Chicago.
Yes, in Chicago, taking him after he'd been fired by the Saints. Again, Saints had a great defense for a number of years when he was under Sean Payton, and for a number of years when he was the head coach himself. Granted, things fell apart due to injury and just overall fatigue of things going in the wrong direction. But that's going to be a great asset to have on your team, a guy who's familiar with being a head coach to help support Ben Johnson in his first year. And then the rumor is on the offensive side of the football, it's the passing game coordinator for the Rams that they're bringing in. Let me see if it's in my notes here. Declan Doyle. Again, Ben Johnson's kind of the offensive guy, but Ben Johnson kind of being from that McVay style tree, you're going to bring in a guy from McVay's literal staff to kind of help support you and get Caleb on the right page. I think the most important thing is they brought over a guy who has experience working with a veteran quarterback. He can say, hey, this is how, Stafford kind of sees it. Because there's a lot of similarities between Stafford and between Caleb Williams, how they throw the football, how they use different arm angles and all these sort of things. So I think that Ben Johnson's putting the right staff together. It's just, how does that culture come through? I'm genuinely really excited to see it. And another note on Ben Johnson, watching his opening press conference, he said, I'm not like this. We're not running the Jared Goff offense. He's like, I want to build this thing from the ground up with Caleb. We're going to figure out what he likes. We're going to figure out the things that are most successful in the NFL. And we're going to build this thing from scratch. We're not just, porting things over. It's going to be a building process. And that tells me that Ben Johnson's head is in the right place, and kind of addresses my concerns about his offense not matching Caleb. Anything you'd like to say about Ben Johnson?
No, I think Ben Johnson is exciting. And I think he does set the blueprint for what a guy like Liam Coen can do in Jacksonville, which is hire responsible people around you. And it can't be just you. You got to have help and support and good voices. And I think, for example, like, I know he's off the table now, but if I were, and that's the problem with waiting so long in Jacksonville. Fire Trent Baalke, it takes forever, and now you got a coach delayed in the process, and so other chess pieces are off the board. But if you could have got like a Robert Saleh to be your defensive coordinator or something like that, would have been a really good statement. And I think what's left to find out in Tampa, for example, are the coordinators and who fills out the other responsibilities, or sorry, in Jacksonville, excuse me. And what's got to happen is something similar to what Chicago's done, which is hire capable, responsible people and taking a lot of the workload off of Ben Johnson. So it's not all just a Ben Johnson show.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Saleh, back to the Niners.
Yeah. I'm rooting for him,
that.
dude.
Love that for him.
It's a bit, I don't know that that's the place to be. I mean, we've talked a lot about it. Shanahan, man, if I'm him, I don't want to pay Brock Purdy and be there for all that. If I were Shanahan, I probably would have jumped ship to like a Chicago, or I mean, I think he's under contract. It's not that simple, but like, I would have been like, hey, let's go. Like, what if Shanahan was the coach of the I don't know, the Bills, for example? How exciting that would be. Shanahan and Saleh coaching the offense and defense in Buffalo is like a great idea. And that's what it's going to take. And frankly, like, we've even talked in the past about how, the trajectory of Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan is very similar. And what happened for Andy Reid is he ended up with a truly elite special quarterback. It's going to take that for Kyle Shanahan to succeed. I've never thought about this idea before, but if you fire Sean McDermott, or maybe you trade McDermott for Shanahan or something to that effect, like Kyle Shanahan with an elite quarterback like Josh Allen, that's the pairing that could actually maybe take on at Kansas City and get them over the hump where they're not running into the buzzsaw and losing, their last game of the year in the AFC title game.
Yeah.
That'd be so fun. I know it's now pie in the sky, fun idea time, but the other name that comes to mind from a coordinator perspective, returning to New England to be Mike Vrabel's offensive coordinator. We've got the man himself back from obscurity. Josh McDaniels is back, everybody.
We're getting the band back together. What?
No, in fairness, I will say.
Belichick's going to leave North Carolina and be the DC. That's where we're headed. Come on.
But what's fun? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia in New England, and they're having a hard time moving on from what was very clearly a lot of people and names and whatever. But as much as I doubt, like Josh McDaniels was a terrible head coach, didn't work many, many times. Not a good move there. But he was the offensive coordinator for Brady. He did get Mac Jones to a Pro Bowl. Like, I can see how you can get your way to believing that Josh McDaniels, if you're a Patriots fan, is the right hire here. But what do you make of it? What do you make of this whole Josh McDaniels hire in New England?
Man, it's hard to say that it's not going to work, again, just because of the experience that he has as an offensive coordinator and kind of that proven success.
Yeah.
But I've got such a bad taste in my mouth with how things ended in Las Vegas. And previous to that, I believe it was with the Broncos. Like, just him as a head coach just leaves such a bad taste in your mouth. But the good news is he gets Drake May, an uber talented guy, a guy who can stand in the pocket and deliver the football. And he'll probably find ways to simplify the game for him. Be like, hey, like, this is what really works in the NFL. Let me teach you all the things that, Brady and I went over together, whether that's reading a defense, whether that's picking up things pre-snap. And so to have a guy like that who has such experience is going to be massive, I think, for Drake May. I still feel like that offense is a little bit outdated in terms of how it operates in the current NFL. But if you get that run game going, Drake May is not asked to do a ton. Things could look pretty good in New England. I don't want to say relatively quickly, but at least you won't be in the dumpster anymore. At least you'll be, a 9, 8, 9, maybe a wild card type team instead of this basement dwelling they've been doing for the past couple of years.
Yeah, I really don't know what to make of it. I think that you've got a guy who's gone to war and won big games and been in the fire, which is it's hard to criticize Josh McDaniels being hired as offensive coordinator. But what I will say is there is a concern in my head that New England just can't move on. And there's like an obsession with the past and what was.
Patriot way.
And I don't know that that's bad. I mean, what was amazing. What was a historic dynasty. Like, let's not be like, not sugarcoat it or pretend like it wasn't incredible when it was great in New England. But the wheels fell off, and I worry that there's an obsession with the past that's going to be a problem rather than moving forward. Now, all that being said, I don't know who else you hire as offensive coordinator either. Like, I don't know what name is out there that's better than Josh McDaniels. And it's scary to me, though, because it's such a critical moment in Drake May's career. However, once again, though,
let's go back about the most.
Go back to Mac Jones. Like, Mac Jones was on a great trajectory until Josh McDaniels left to be head coach of the Raiders. What screwed up the trajectory of Mac Jones' career was
Matt Patricia,
right? So losing Josh McDaniels and then getting a defensive coordinator as his offensive coordinator, him and a special teams guy, Joe Judge. Yeah, it was a terrible plan. And so you do wonder, what does Mac Jones look like? What does the Patriots organization look like if McDaniels had stayed to work with Mac Jones? Is the entire spider web of events that have happened since then, are they totally different? Probably. It was a huge butterfly effect. And so as tired as I am of Josh McDaniels and as bad as he was as a head coach in Denver and the Raiders organization, when called to the task to be the offensive coordinator of the Patriots, he's never failed yet. And I see no reason to not believe in him until proven otherwise. Just never make sure the salute doesn't start from your chest, Nathan.
Oh my goodness.
Careful.
Bring it out wide first.
No. I think it's interesting, and I've got an open mind here with McDaniel. So you agree?
Yeah. Again, I've got an open mind. You kind of hinted at this. I just want the best for Drake May for the level of talent and ability we saw from him this year. I would just love to see the Patriots get this right. I do think that one of the most important things in a coaching staff is trust, right? And there's a lot of trust in New England in Josh McDaniels. There's a lot of trust in Mike Vrabel. There's a lot of trust, I'm sure, in whoever and however he builds out the rest of his staff. And that goes a long way in the buy-in from your players and your assistants, everyone else in the building. So if you put that trust together, I'm not trying to go on this whole power of friendship type spiel, but trust can go a long way in organizations. And if you have that between two of your critical pieces, then that is a good sign. Yeah. Good signs don't always yield good results, but at least it's a good sign.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think we can leave it there, man. In parting, let's reflect on the Super Bowl one more time. Kansas City, Philly. I'm excited. I think it's going to be really fun. I'm rooting for Kansas City, but I'm nervous. I think this game could go either way, and I don't know who's going to win. Where are you watching it, and who are you rooting for?
I will be watching this in Scottsdale. I am going to the Waste Management Phoenix Open this year.
Wow,
so that's going to be it's one of the greatest golf events that's out there. Back when I used to work in golf, the envy of tournaments.
Were you there last year?
No, I was not there last year.
I was there last year, which is hilarious. I don't even care about golf. I was in Phoenix.
What?
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No way. But yeah, so probably going to leave before the final putt drops and find a good sports bar to watch it at with Liz.
Yeah. I got some friends, the way I watched the Super Bowl last time was, actually, I think this would have been 2 years ago that I was there at this event, because it was actually Philly and Kansas City was that Super Bowl. I watched it at a guy named Sanders' house. Sanders is a music teacher in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and him and his friends had a Super Bowl party, and I'm on my road trip living in my truck, and I just went and I hung out with them, and
That's tight.
it was so cool. It was like I had the best beer cheese ever. Sanders, I don't know if you're out there. I don't know if you even listen to the show anymore, but dude, I loved your friends, loved meeting you. It was so fun. And good memories, man. I don't know. I forgot all about that. It's hilarious.
Sweet. That's going to be, so this year you're doing what then?
Oh, I'm going to watch, me and Molly and her mom are going to hang out in where you're the same small little community your mom lives in, actually.
Oh, nice.
And we're going to hang out there at her mom's house and make wings and have sloppy joes and Coke Zero. Ooh. We're going crazy with the alcohol. Yeah, Coke Zero. That's our big special drink. We don't really drink. So like Coke Zero is we're letting it loose, drink. We're not Mormon or anything, but we just don't, I'm just not a drinker. I just don't really, it's not what I do.
It's okay to have on occasion. Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
It makes me feel bad. And for real, like I have sparkling water usually as my fun drink, and Coke Zero is like a step up. Like, ooh, Coke Zero. Whoa. I'm lame. I'm an old man, dude. I hate the weather. I want to talk about the weather. I'm cold all the time. My skin is dry. I got invited out. I'm sorry to end the show this way, but Sean, you know him. He went to high school with you, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
He invites us out on Saturday. It's like, let's go karaoke. And I'm like, cool. Doesn't give me a time. Doesn't give me a place. He goes, I'll text you when I'm on my way. 5 o'clock comes and goes. 6 o'clock comes and goes. 7 o'clock. Finally, like 8:12. He goes, I'm on my way to the bar. Are you gonna come? I'm like, dude, I'm in for the night. Like, it's 8 o'clock. I'm not going out.
That's 100% how it is. If you don't let me know what the plans are prior to 6 p.m., you might as well just say I canceled.
But even if he told me, hey, we're going out at 8, I would have said, I'm not going then. Like, I'm an old man.
That's different. Yeah, different.
My night doesn't start later than like 7. If the night starts after that, I'm like, I'm just going to stay in and play God of War on my Steam Deck. I'm happy. Like, I'm good. I'm totally good. I'm actually happier on my couch doing that. That's a great time to me.
Hey, one of my favorite things to do is absolutely nothing. When you have such a busy schedule and you're running around, you're doing all these different things, when there's a moment to just do nothing, it is, it's amazing.
What my Saturday was this week, because again, I'm an old man. Steam Deck, we watched like 6 Anthony Bourdain episodes. Molly made cookies. We're on our couch. It was. I couldn't imagine a better night. I was like, yeah, I don't want to go out. What am I singing with drunk people at a bar? That sounds terrible. My wife's here. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm an old man. I'm just like, I'm walking into the sunset of early retirement. Just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm really happy here. I'm totally happy.
The little things.
Anyway, man, I love you, dude. Thanks for your time, and good job, man. Good job this week.
Thanks. I appreciate that. All right, everybody.
You ready for it?
Oh man, I was gonna try and time it up with you, but then I just
bam, we are done.